Davis Carter. I grew up in Mathews, Alabama. We used to call it Mathews Station.
That's right.
That's still in Montgomery County.
Okay.
I was born to Mr. and Mrs. Ben Davis in the year of 1930. I grew up as their only child. And we were, I guess you assume, sharecroppers or whatever, but my father left the rural very early and went away to work to support the family. And so I grew up with mother. So mother and I lived at Mathews most of my early and late childhood. I attended Mathews Elementary School for 6 years. And after that, I had to find a place to go because there were no schools nearby and no transportation. So I went to Montgomery, and I went to school there for 2 years. And I went to Booker T, Washington, for 2 years. And 2 years later, Montgomery County school system was given a bus. And my parents brought me back home so that I could ride the bus to what was the Montgomery County Training School. Well, I'm about 8th or 9th grade at this time. So, let me tell you about the bus. The first bus, I rode the first bus from Montgomery County. Yeah, it was the first bus Montgomery County had. And it was a wooden bus. It was black and yellow, and it had 2 seats. It had a seat on each side, and it had columns down the middle. And if you were not lucky enough to get a seat, then you had to hold on to the bars. And we traveled, the bus driver came from Waugh, who was Mr. Perkins. And he went through Pike Road, from Waugh, through Pike Road, around, and came up from that area into Mathews, and picked up all of the Mathews children. And we came back through Cecil, back into Waugh. So it was a very long ride to school. Now, the bus would break down at least twice or 3 times a week. And sometimes we had to walk home. In other words, it was dark when we left home, and most times dark when we got back, because the buses had to make 2 or more trips, because I believe they had only 2 buses. I remember we had, the paper that we had was called cornbread. And you maybe had a tablet, and it was very rough. And you might have had a pencil or 2. And the only way you sharpen that pencil, you go to the kitchen and find a sharp knife. And you could not use much of that paper. You had to write on the front and back because you weren't going to get another one soon, because there was no place to purchase another tablet. If they bought you some paper, you had to make it last. And Mama would make the book bags that you go to Walmart and buy now. They would take cloth and make a little book bag, and they'd put a handle on it, and you'd put that little speller, you had about 1 book, no more than 2, in that little bag, and your pencil, and you had your pail in your hand with your food, and it was a bucket. Not a lunch bucket, but it was a lunch pail that we used. Yeah. And so it was cold, we had no microwaves, or anything. So we ate whatever Mom put in that bucket, we ate it. And we shared it. Because some children might not have any food. And so you want to share with those who had nothing to eat. Now let me go back and talk about my early childhood. Now I didn't have siblings in the family. And I spent a lot of time playing along and going down to my adopted father because he loved children and he had no children. And so I made up for that. His name was Mr. John Henry Woodfall. And he took me on his wings and I took him as my playmate, really. And I followed him around in the field, around the house, and everywhere. My father was in Montgomery, Alabama working. He came home occasionally, maybe every 2 weeks. Most times I went to Montgomery and he gave me the money. I've been a little grown girl for a long, long time. And I would purchase the food for my mom. Now the way I went, I rode in a truck with my cousin who lived next door. He had a truck and he had a wood truck where he would sell wood. And he would put his wood in the truck on Saturday. And we went to Montgomery every Saturday to sell wood. And he sold the wood, but also he would pick up people along the way. And because that was the only way they had to travel. Now in Mathews there was a train, but that train went up in the morning and came back in the evening. So it was inconvenient for you if you wanted to go into Montgomery in the morning. I would ride that train back sometimes. So I had to put up with walking and getting home late in the afternoon. And there was, well, we didn't do a lot of projects and things like they do in school today. So we were blessed because we had no lights. We always lived in a shack. There's no running water, no facilities. And my childhood really was rough, but I didn't know it at the time. We had to take our clothes to a pond nearby. And we would wash at the pond. And then you would take your clothes to a wire fence, if you could find one, and hang them on the fence. And then you would wait until they were dry. But you went to the pool. Now, sometimes we chose to bring the water to the house. Water to wash the clothes, not to drink. Because each community had a central well, and you would go there and draw your water and take it home. But later on, the guys got together and put a pump that you had to prime the pump to get the water. And I recall the nearest water pump in my community was like a mile or more. When I got home, I waste most of the water. But that was your drinking and cooking water. You had maybe 2 pails. Now the ladies, really, I have seen them carry a pail on the head and 2 in the hand, but you know I could not do that. So there were a kind of bucket that had a top on it, and they had to give me that so I wouldn't spill all the water before I got home. Now we only had a bath on Saturday night. Reason being, you had no water. You gotta go and get this water, and then you gotta heat it. Well, you got to have wood to heat it. Yes. So you're not gonna burn up all your wood trying to heat water every day to get a bath. So we would get our bath, bring the tub in, and heat some water on a Saturday night because you're going to church. Now, I don't know why, but we didn't heat it to go to school on a Monday. So you had to put up with that bath until it was time for the next bath. But the water had to be brought in. And believe it or not, that water that you took a bath in, we sometimes had to wash our clothes in that same water, or use it for other purposes. Whatever was in demand, we had to use that water. Water was scarce. And that was pretty much my life. Of course, we did not have the facilities as you know as we have today. We always had one room and a kitchen. I lived in a log cabin at one time where the logs were chinked with clay, and there was one room and a long fireplace all the way across the room. And you could very easily put your pot on one side and cook and enjoy the heat. I also lived in a cabin where the kitchen was separate. The kitchen was, you had to go out the door and go to the little cabin. That was your kitchen. And it had a dirt floor and a pot-belly stove. And of course we had little cans in the kitchen where we put our water. Most of the food was food that they had gathered or planted. We bought very little food because most people raised their food. But my father was away. So my mother and I would work out, or we would share our gardens, food with other people. I spent a lot of time working at the big house. I was never wanted to work on the farm. I went to the big house to work. I nursed the kids and help around, help the cook. I would help the cook in the kitchen after the baby went to sleep. That's what I did on weekends, and they paid me. And when Monday morning came, I had spent all of my time nursing at the big house, but I had money in my pocket. So I would put that money up, and by the weekend I was ready to go to Montgomery, go down Monroe Street and go to Crescent's and go shopping, Wells and go shopping. It was not much money, but I could go and buy some food. I don't recall buying any clothes. My father would buy me some clothes occasionally. And of course we didn't wear shoes after school. You know, we would save your shoes for school. And church, if you went to church. Now I joined Panther Creek, as I told you, at age 8. I'm skipping around because, but I didn't attend Panther Creek, not very often, because of the distance. Because from where I lived to Panther Creek was quite a distance. I'd be maybe 4 or 5 miles or more. I joined Panther Creek when I was 8 years old, and they baptized me in a creek between Mathews and Panther Creek. You might not remember that, but there was some water beside the bridge that went to Panther Creek, and that's where I was baptized. And I would go occasionally to Panther Creek whenever Mr. Woodford would take the wagon, because he rode the horse to church every Sunday. Well, when I say every Sunday, I'm not talking about all of the calendar Sundays. We only had church maybe once or twice per month. And I attended really Mount Pleasant Christian Church and Trinity A.M. Zion Church. Reason being, they were close enough to walk, not close by. Yeah, my father is buried at Panther Creek. Now, I don't recall my father being baptized or anything at Panther Creek, not my mom. But they told me they were members of that church because my mom came from Mathews, but down near the Troy Highway. Okay, now let me say that. First of all, I have to start with my high school experience.
Okay.
When I finished high school in 1948-49 school year, the school, Montgomery County School, burned.
Okay.
All right, so the Montgomery County School had little areas for the students. For example, the vocational ag boys had a building adjacent to the regular school. So when the school burned, that building was still there. So Montgomery County moved all of the junior high students to Georgia Washington. But I never attended Georgia Washington.
Okay.
What happened was they used this building because we were seniors.
Okay.
And we only have 3 or 4 months to go. So they used that building and the church, so I really graduated from the church in 1949. So I'm out of high school now. So I finished high school in Waugh, 1949. And after that, I'm stuck with somewhere to go and something to do. I wanted to go to college, but no fun, no transportation. So I decided to go to Montgomery and find a job or whatever. So I did. I went to Montgomery and I found a few jobs around. I always wanted to go to school, but I had no means, nobody to help or assist me. So I stayed around there for a while. And well, when I finished school, I really wanted to go to college. I wanted to go to Tuskegee, as I was stated, but I didn't. So finally, I met this guy and I got married because I'm ready for a change. I'm ready to do something other than trying to find a job. Because these jobs not paying me anything. I need to move on. So I got married in 1951.
Okay.
And Sadie was born in 1952.
Okay.
And we lived here with his parents. But my husband was working at VA Hospital, Tuskegee. And so I got to attend Alabama State. Not regularly because I have one child, had another one the next year. Mother of 4 would only have 2 living. And I kept on and on and on. Unfortunately, my father-in-law was killed in an accident in Mount Mathews. He had a brand new car, and it's no stick shift power. And so he was killed in that new car. And so we inherited that car. And so now I'm on wheels, I can drive, you know. So I was able to get around, go to school, do whatever. So now I'm able to go to college, you know, because I can drive. But I have no money, but I drove from here to Montgomery. And you would pick up people along the way, and you would charge them 25 or 50 cents. And you did need probably $1 to fill the tank up. Because gas was about a quarter, 50 cents. And you fill up your cars, the tanks were small. I'm still pushing and praying that this would materialize. So finally, long story short, I finally got there. I finally finished.
We'll run out of it. We're going to drink it on the way home.
And after finishing, I did a lot of substitute working. Substitute teaching. Now, at the time, there were schools in every community. For example, about in the Bend, they have a school. In Waugh, in Cecil, and Mathews, Montgomery, Okay, so I got a chance to teach in all of those schools, one teacher school.
One teacher school.
Yeah. Now, it was 6th grades. Now, what I had to do, I had to get up and get there early. Reason being, I had to make a fire and get the kids situated. What we would do, we would sit the kids like you all see around the potbelly stove that I just made a fire, you know. And we would sit there, we'd have devotion, and until we got comfortable. And then we would move into our seats, you know, for the day. We had, the church would bring lunch like when I went to school. We had lunch. We didn't have the lunch boxes, but we had a container. Now when I went to school, I had a container with a syrup bucket. And you would put the little food that you had. It was probably a little sweet potato, a piece of possum, a piece of rabbit, or whatever you had the day before. And Mom would give it to me to take to school. That's what I had for lunch. And I would offer my teachers some. Sometimes they had a baked sweet potato they baked in the fireplace. And that's what I did. And that's what my students did, really, during that time. I taught at Montgomery for a while. I had to go there and do the same thing. If you didn't have a PTA member to go out and fill the pail with coal and bring some kindling in to help you make a fire, well, you had to do it yourself. And of course I enjoyed it because I had done that at home. And I also got to teach at Montgomery. I carried out a year for Mrs. Ruth Reynolds at Montgomery, teacher principal. And I worked there, and if you were a teacher principal, you had to go into the office and take whatever the Board of Education wanted. You had to go in and get your supplies. They didn't deliver them. They only delivered the coal. All right. I did that for 3 years. And after that, one of the teachers at Waugh Elementary School, there were 4, went away. She went off to get another degree. And they asked me if I wanted the job. That was my first. That's why I retired in '92. I'd done 30 years. After consolidation, we had integration. All right, the second year of integration, for me, I believe, I taught at George Washington 5 years. And then when they sent me to Pike Road, that was integration. Pike Road, the school that they had remodeled, that's where I taught.
Okay.
And that school only was open for 1 year. And we had to go into Montgomery. That was a beautiful year, a very enjoyable year. There were 2 black teachers, the rest were white. So, Pike Road School closed. We moved to Montgomery. They moved me to what is now Forest Avenue International. All right. I taught there about 7 to 8 years. And then they started moving around. I also was moved to Delrata. Whenever they had a vacancy, they would pull you, you know, from Delrata. And then I taught Delrata several years. And then they moved me to Macmillan. But they had a case of a black teacher had to be replaced. I moved there. And I stayed there for a long, until I retired. I retired from Macmillan.
I know, yeah.
But I had a very, very enjoyable teaching career. I think I enjoyed the rural areas.
Okay, okay, okay.
Even though it was not what you would probably enjoy, But it was something about it because I knew the kids and their parents were very cooperative. They would come around and assist you if you needed assistance. So I really enjoyed that experience. I enjoyed Georgia Washington because I knew everybody there. And that's one thing I try to teach the whole child. Because I loved all of the 30 that came in the door. They were my kids when they hit the door. And I loved those kids. I enjoyed my first year of integration. I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay.
That was at Pike Road.
Okay.
I think I have a picture of those students. I think I had not more than 5 blacks. But I had no freedom to do. For example, when I took the kids to lunch, I could eat alone. Didn't have to chaperone kids and eat. And I had a choice of making me a salad or eating something different from what the children were eating. That was a Pike Road. Very nice people. Being the only one in the elementary area, I was the only person. But there was a person, one more black, in the upper school. The lunchroom, well, she was a cook and everything, really. I never will forget her. She's Miss Bond from Pike Road. But Miss Bond always had us a little something in the fridge left from yesterday. And she said, go in there and get you a salad or some cookies or whatever from yesterday if you don't want what's on the menu for today. And she said, you don't have to watch the kids. They're my kids. When they're in the lunchroom, they're my kids. They're not your kids. So I take care of them. But now, in the other schools, they were yours from 7 to 3. So you can imagine how it is trying to eat and saying, Johnny, stop, you know, don't do that and all of this. But it's been quite an experience. That was something different about all of the schools that I really enjoyed. What I see now is that you can achieve anything that you want to. Nobody hinders you from doing it, from reaching your goal, whatever it is. If you don't reach your goal, it's you. You know, I have known the time when you couldn't go in these schools and colleges and stores and things, you know. You had to go to the back door, you had to, at the fountain, you had a sign at the this and that. But now it's a different day. But then there's another side to it. I wanted to. And the average person now, I don't see that in them. They you know, you got that push. You got to push them into it now. Because they want everything easy. They don't want to do like I did, you know. Before I got the car to go to college, many days I stood out on the highway and thumbed, but I was not ashamed because this is something I wanted. And I don't know, it was just something I always wanted in my life. I wanted children and I wanted to be able to support those children. And that's why I kept striving very hard. Sometimes I think about it with all the changing clothes and all the things we had. And I remember I had a coat, I kept it closed because I was not dressed like I wanted to be. But I didn't stop because of that. Yeah. So, after I got married, my life got better. And then I wanted to make my children's life better. I wanted them to go to school and do whatever their goals were. But I would help them and show them and encourage them to strive so that they would have better lives for their children.
I tell people, I can remember times when someone would knock on the door and it would be Tyler, Mr. Carter, her late husband, at the door with some type of gift for Dump. If he barbecued, he's there. I mean, and I used to wonder, what, as a kid, what this connection is.
Right.
He remembered the things that I used to tell him that your dad did for me.
I told my wife that.
Yeah.
I told her that today.
Wow.
I say, as I got older, I realized.
Yeah, you remember what
I said, because he had to get those stories from Miss Carter.
Right.
And because he loved his wife, he began to love the people who love her. Isn't that powerful?
he did that. That was him.
I'm being serious now.
You are.
And I'm gonna tell you today that this special person cleared that up for me. It was the day we was getting ready to have Dump's funeral. You took me for a walk over the yard. I remember like it was yesterday. He said, "Come here, boy." And she told me the story. All those years I never knew.
Oh yeah.
He didn't talk about stuff like that. But when I talk about your grandfather to people, they swear I'm exaggerating. And I tell them, I say, if he had to whip you, you knew you had done something real terrible. I mean terrible, because of his patience.
Very patient. Very.
And we tested it. But he was so patient, man,
He was.
That's amazing that he was like a surrogate or foster father to
Yes,
her.
he was.
And then you ended up in foster care.
Yeah. It is.
That's
it is
amazing.
amazing. I never thought
That
about
is
that.
amazing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But it was so much I watched them do in the community that, as you got older, you began to understand. But this is so true. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never known him to do anything but go to church and come back home and farm and,
Okay.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
prepare for his wife and family, father and mother.
Yeah.
That's all I've ever known him to do. I never known him to go to stores, hang around.
And I'm gonna tell you something she did for me. And I turned it into a business. She would come down to the house and tutor me when I was a little boy. In Nebraska, I was sitting up and I was reflecting on how you helped me, and we started a tutoring service in Nebraska. I'm being serious.
Well, the Woodfall, let me tell you how much we love the Woodfall.
I'm serious. I call
When I
it
got
therapy
married.
tutoring.
We love the Woodfall, so we bought some property over on 107. And my husband asked me one day, he said, why don't we move the Woodfalls into the house? There was a house on the property. And this cousin of mine, he heard that we were going to get them to move in this property. And he got them first and moved them on his property.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And we were angry about it because
Wow.
we were the ones thought about it first.
Yeah.
That we wanted them to come and live with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of history. A lot of history.
Yeah. I hope that you will continue your plight in life because Mr. Woodfall was a nice, and loved people, loved his church. He was a Christian man.
Yeah.
He had a good heart. I never heard him raise his voice or use a curse word. Yeah. He was not that type.
A lot of people loved him and respected him.
Yes,
Yeah.
you had to respect him
Yeah. A lot of
because he
people.
respected you.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you first moved here, was it a rock road? Was it paved? What?
Yeah, that was paved.
That was paved.
But when you get down to the store, 107, it
Uh-huh.
was rock.
It was rock. Wow.
It was rock.
Seen a lot of changes in Waugh.
Yeah, it was rock. Because you want to remember, that's 80.
Uh-huh. No interstate when you...
No interstate
Yeah.
then. So 80 went from, you could go all the way to Georgia
Yeah.
into Montgomery. So it was paved. But I walked it, I would walk to church. When I first, my first child was born, put my shoes in a bag and the baby on my hip, and I walk from here to church every Sunday.
Wow, same thing.
And then what you would do, you'd pull off your shoes before you get there and hide them in the bushes. And then you'd put them on, you leave church.
When you leave church.
Yeah.
Switch
walk
into your
to church
church, yeah.
with my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been retired now how long?
Oh, I was retired at 93.
93.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
You're about
good.
to be 90 years young. What can I get? What can I do to get 90 years young?
Oh my word. Baby, it comes so quick you don't realize it.